households clearly are the ones that buy homes. And so the challenge is, can they afford to buy homes? And what's their balance sheet looking like? Households' debt positions are beginning to worsen. UK individuals are borrowing at the highest levels since the 2008 crisis. And maybe that's why we're beginning to see a rise in individual insolvencies at a time when interest rates are actually still very low and unemployment levels are still very low. So there's some vulnerability coming into the UK. The challenge for us is that the UK economy faces the uncertainty generated by Brexit and the fact that we're in a mature economic cycle, which means that we're due a slowdown. So maybe the best we can do over the next few years is growth of between 1.5% and 2%. That's not a great growth rate. The world economy is growing twice as fast as the UK, and even Europe is growing faster than the UK, and the UK will be the slowest growing of the G7 economies. That means we're vulnerable to a slowdown at a time when household balance sheets are also stretched. Consumer spending has been hit by a fall in the exchange rate, which pushed up UK price inflation. When inflation rises to those levels and it's not matched by a rise in pay, which it hasn't been, real pay declines. Pay is growing by 2% less than growth in prices. In other words, people have lost income, real income. So spending has slowed. And households have been able to compensate for that by cutting their savings ratio and borrowing more in order to maintain their spending. Effectively, we've had 7 years of uninterrupted growth. Now, that growth rate may have been slow, but it's important to note that the UK typically has an economic cycle that lasts between 7 and 8 years. So some of the debate that goes on at the moment about the fact that the economy is slowing, well, maybe we shouldn't be surprised that it's slowing. The fact that the rest of the world is growing more quickly than the UK could be a symptom of the fact that we were growing more quickly than the rest of the world were a few years ago, and they've just caught up. The real hit to house prices in the UK and household demand for homes is the fact that prices are rising much more quickly than average earnings, and they have been doing so for well over a decade. Two factors at play. One is that our growth in incomes has been less than the growth in house prices. And the second effect has been the fact that the lack of supply of housing across the UK has pushed up prices. There are solutions to the problem: increase the supply of homes, to increase funding to housing associations, allow them to borrow more, but they're all politically very difficult. And so the lesson for housing associations is this environment they're in at the moment may not change much, and that they have to agitate to the powers that be to get more ability to use their balance sheet to buy and to rent and to build.